Today we're going to rank every single evolution in Clash Royale from worst to best. And starting off with the worst evolution in Clash Royale for the third month in a row, the Goblin drill. This thing has not been touched and remains completely terrible. The problem is, one, Goblin drill decks have so many better evolutions in them, and the Goblin drill itself doesn't provide you that much more value over the normal drill, because what normally counters the drill also happens to just walk over and counter the goblins from the evolved drill. So there's no point to use it. At number 32 is the evolved wizard. The problem with the wizard is, well, to play the wizard evolution, you got to play the normal wizard. Nobody wants to do that. Every other ranged support troop evolution provides more value more often than the wizard does. The wizard is not worth what he does for the cost of 5 elixir and also being pretty useless on offense. Almost every other Evo has a nice little gimmick that allows them to get more value on offense or things like that. And the wizard just isn't a good card. It's not a good card. You'll get the same amount of value from almost every other ranged troop in the entire game, except for like rascals. At number 30 is the Electro Dragon. And now I do want to take a quick pause to say that this video is ranking the evolutions based off of mainly top 1000 stats. Now, what this means is the win rate of those cards, the use rate of those cards, all put together to rank the evolutions. So it's not entirely based on use rate, but that plays a big part. So does win rate. And the E-Dragon is just also a cool little stat. Shout out to Royale API, is average rank of the players who use the Evo. So that's kind of cool. But the E-Drag is one of those cards that just doesn't get used. People don't win with it. Beatdown sucks in the meta, and therefore the E-Drag sucks, because the E-Drag's not going to fit in any cycle decks, and therefore it's only going to be used in beatdown. Regardless of how good the Evo is, it's easy enough to stop. It's bad in a lightning meta, and you can't fit it in any other decks other than beatdown decks that really aren't good in the meta right now. At 30 is the Bomber, the worst version of the Firecracker, and the fact is people just don't use the Bomber anymore. We've moved on to bigger and better things like guards, or, you know, just mainly having a meta where having a Bomber isn't going to help you, which is a little weird given there's a lot of bait, but Bomber just has fell off as a card. The use rates have plummeted for the normal Bomber too, and pretty honestly, there's lots of just, if I have a Swarm card in my deck and I can use an Evo, why would I not use the Witch instead of the Bomber, who really doesn't do that much aside from chip the tower every now and then? At 29 is the Battle Ram. Now, the Battle Ram occasionally does something pretty cool and is really only used in bridge spam decks that physically don't have another Evo, because all the bridge spam cards just don't have Evos. I mean, they're using frickin' Evo barbs, man. They're just using Evos to put an Evo in their deck. There is no real benefit to running the Battle Ram in the majority of matchups. Yes, every now and then you could get a really good clip. It's just, realistically, the Battle Ram is really hard to actually get it to survive very long. You've got to get it behind a P.E.K.K.A. and then pray that your opponent doesn't have a building or splash units or a high DPS unit to just place on the Battle Ram. It's just not very good. At 28 is our Dark Goblin. The little friend has unfortunately become a little bit better in the meta, just entirely based off of a couple of bait decks. The problem with the Dark Goblin is he just doesn't like fit in a lot of decks. You won't see normal decks using the Dark Goblin outside of bait, and he dies really, really easily. So if your opponent has a brain cell, they're usually going to be able to kill the Dark Goblin before it's able to ramp up its stage of the Evo. The problem is you've got to shoot something with the Dark Goblin 8 to 9 times to get it to actually get the full effect of its poison. And while it can be annoying versus things like Lava Hound and other beatdown pushes, you typically don't need the Dark Goblin Evo for the types of decks that it's in to beat those decks anyways. At 27 is the Musketeer. The problem with the Musketeer is she's one and done. You play her, you may or may not be able to snipe something, your opponent probably blocks it, or you're not even able to hit the thing you were trying to hit, and you just have a normal Musketeer that looks cooler. So consistently getting value out of a card is a big thing on whether or not they're going to be a good Evo or not, and the Musketeer just isn't able to consistently do something, and even when she does, her ability is the shortest out of every Evo in the game. So there's really no massive benefit to using the Musketeer Evo. Even though she's a pretty good card, you'd probably get more value from just using her straight up, which is what 2.6 players do, and then using her as an Evo when you could probably use something else. Next up is the Mega Knight. I know, how is he so low? Well, the problem of the matter is Mega Knight just refuses to be good on top ladder. It's pretty easy to stop, and for the most part, the decks in the meta right now kind of do a good job at countering the Mega Knight. They shut him down pretty easily. If you know what you're doing, you won't have a problem dealing with the Mega Knight Evo. The use rate of the Mega Knight, one of the lowest Evos in the game on top ladder. I know this could probably jump up a lot if we're looking at like normal stats for mid ladder players and casuals, and A lot of that is due to just people don't know how to stop a Mega Knight, and people are way too aggressive on offense, and now they give their opponent a +9 elixir counter push, and they've got a Mega Knight coming down, and they have an elixir spirit and 2 skeletons to deal with it. Like, that's the problem with it. Not that the card is overpowered, just that people don't know how to play into it. My oh my, the mortar is taking probably the most massive fall off we've seen in a ranking video so far. Most of this being that just mortar really took a big hit when cannon cart got nerfed in the meta, and on top of that, the deck also received like 3 to 4 extra nerfs, and the meta is just anti-mortar right now, which is not necessarily mortar's fault. It's how it is. Mortar is not very good right now. So if mortar is not very good, then why the hell would mortar evo be good? You know, that's just not how it works. The mortar evo and the mortar are probably the 2 most connected what do you call them, evos and normal troops, because it's like the #1 win condition you can't use the evo without. You've never seen anybody use a mortar without the evo, basically, is what I'm saying. And if mortar's bad in the meta, the evo is going to be bad in the meta, and it is. Next up are the barbarians. The barbarians are interesting because they're not very good, but the decks that use them do decent. I can think of 2 main decks that use barbarians right now. Classic Lava Loon, which is used by a couple of players, and Bridge Spam with the pump and the heal spirit and the fact that I think they're just using barbs because they don't have another evo in their deck. You literally Ghost, Bandit, Queen, heal spirit, arrows, pump, barbs, battle ram, and is that 8? I think that is 8. Oh, it is. But yeah, they just don't have another evo, and barbs are like, all right. Barbs and probs are pretty bad, to be honest, as a normal card. The evo doesn't make them that much better, but them surviving fireball is like kind of nice. So at 23, we have the Lumberjack evo. He's good. The problem is that when they nerfed nerfed him to 2 cycles, it made it a lot less oppressive. And now you really only have to deal with maybe 1.5 lumberjacks per game, or 2 if it goes to overtime. Usually it's hard to cycle lumberjacks that often, and the decks that do have lumberjack in them are pretty slow to begin with, aside from the abominations that use lumberjack balloon freeze cycle. Like, it's just not very overpowered right now. If you let it get to your tower, it will be, but the fact is there's a lot less of them, so it's become a lot less annoying. The brand new Inferno Dragon probably debuts at the lowest we've seen a brand new evo, and that being that the Inferno Dragon evo doesn't give it an ability to like counter its normal counters. If you counter the iDrag, you counter the evo iDrag. That's the problem with it. Now, it's really cool and really dangerous if your opponent doesn't have the right answer for it. And that's where it shines and where it's really good. But it just can't be that good if the people that the people have iDrag counters. Like, the people just have normal iDrag counters, and this completely shuts down the evo. So that's what's making it like not worth using almost at a certain point. Like, I use it in my deck, and I don't even think I'll be using the evo iDrag, just because like why would I use the evo iDrag when what normally counters iDrag counters this one? I don't know. I mean, it'll get cool offensive value sometimes. Is that worth using over the Valk and the Zap? Archers come in at 21, and really, I mean, archers have been flying out of the radar. I think they're decent evolution. Really, really powerful in Expo, and I guess that one eagle on deck that kind of fell off. But Expo is really just showing off the power of the Evo archers and how if you can bait your opponents correctly and predict them, the archers can get a lot of value. The archers are a bit better than the Dart Goblin because they don't need to be alive for as long to get value out of them. So you only need those couple of hits, or maybe 2 or 3 hits, and your opponent, unless they're predicting them, is usually going to give that up to you, and by that time you've already sniped whatever you need to snipe. So while they are still very risky to play, they're easier to get value out of than the Dart Goblin, and when you can get value out of them, they're really, really strong. At 20, we have the EVO XE. His girth and tonnage holds him back from being a really, really good EVO. Basically, he's like the Wizard in the fact that you have to actually run an Executioner to be able to run an EVO XE, and most Clash Royale decks just don't have room for an Executioner, whether it makes the deck synergy weird, or it makes it too expensive, or you're not going to be able to consistently defend with him when you'd rather use something else. And the XE, he does its job. He makes decks where you already use an XE like Hog XE really good. Or maybe not really good, it kind of depends on the meta shifts and stuff, but XE is just a good boost to the card. The problem is the card's versatility is still very, it's low, so the Executioner is not going to be that high, even though as an Evo he's pretty strong. At 19, we have the Hunter. He got a nerf, which makes him a little bit weaker. But at the same time, the Witch has just overtaken a lot of the ranged troop spots. So you're going to see a lot of ranged evos kind of fall in statistics when maybe they're not that bad, but there's a new shiny toy that's much better. So we're going to use that instead. And the Witch is, no spoilers, but she's one of the best evos in the game. So you're going to use her. And she has replaced the Hunter in most of the Hunter decks, which is Royal Giant. So while Hunter is still being used in some of them and is still a powerful evolution, he's being replaced. At 18, we have the Tesla. A lot of the Tesla's current stats are inflated by the fact that 3.0 Expo is one of the better decks in the game. You're able to, if you play correctly, outplay almost every deck in the game. And this is going to make one of the Evos that is typically commonly used in this deck. I don't think I needed both typically and commonly there. But if that Evo is strong and the deck is really strong, it's going to inflate the stats a little bit. I still don't think people should invest in Tesla because Tesla hasn't been used in many decks outside of Expo. I guess there's a couple of people use it in Hog EQ, but other than that, you don't really see Tesla used very often. So it's not, I think the stats aren't the whole story to this. I think Expo is a lot better than the Tesla is leading on, and it makes the Tesla look really good when it might be, but it doesn't seem that way. Now, the Diddy Cage, I would still say is a better building alternative than the Tesla just because it is able to do so much. The only reason that Diddy is not raised or rated super high is because he's awkward building. He doesn't like attack things. You've got to get him to come over to you, which is easy if you're Diddy, and pull him into your cage, and that's not going to be feasible for certain decks that would rather use something like a cannon or a Tesla or an eye tower. But he has his purposes, he has the decks he fits in well, and when he gets the opportunity to get value, he gets some of the best value in the entire game. EVO Skeletons, they're in the middle of the pack again. They usually are. You can outplay a lot of people with EVO Skeletons. They can get crazy value, and a lot of the time they just do nothing. The beauty's in the eye of the beholder in the case of the Evo Skellies. If you're able to manifest them properly, you're going to have success with them. They're not going to get nearly as consistent value as they used to do, and they've kind of fell off a little bit, but they're a viable option in so many different decks that's just going to kind of carry them. At 15 is the Royal Recruits, and this is where my judgment comes into play. The top ladder stats rank them as like a bottom 8 Evo. They're just not. If you look at just how oppressive they are, especially to new players, I know this doesn't really go for the Mega Knight because it's way easier to stop a Mega Knight than it is to stop recruits. The recruits are so oppressive on lower ladder and even in ranked ladder up to a certain point where you just can't deal with them. You just can't deal with them. This is so hard to stop. But you can have the right decks to counter them. You can have a lot of swarm and splash, and you can outplay them, but it's a little bit of a skill ceiling to be able to beat recruits really well, and some decks just get absolutely shit on by them. At 14, the Evo Snowball. Now, this one's fun. I like this one because I don't think it's easy to play. I don't think it's really okay. Hold on. It's really easy to just throw a drill in the tower and throw an Evo Snowball, but I don't think that a lot of the majority of the player base knows how to use it properly. That's what I'll say. I think the Giant Snowball Evo has a lot of room for outplay potential, and that's automatically going to carry it up the stats. It has a decently high use rate, higher than I thought it would be. Given that it is a spell, it's naturally going to have a higher use rate, but the Snowball is effective in a lot of different decks, and especially with the emergence of Drill Snowball and a couple other experimental decks like Expo Snowball, it's going to see a lot of improvement, and that's why it's kind of jumped up the ranks a lot because people are starting to figure out how exactly to use it properly. I'm moving the Firecracker up to number 13 because Hog EQ has just absolutely taken over after the Goblin Hut edition rework, which made Firecracker a lot better. Hog EQ has gotten a lot better with the Goblin Hut. Goblin Hut covers up a lot of the defensive problems that deck has, and so now you're gonna just see so much more value out of the Firecracker. Now, I think Firecracker it's good. The problem is she gets countered really easily by arrows. Also, arrows that kind of fell off in the meta a little bit. So if you're gonna, if you're not gonna have arrows, Firecracker is gonna do better. Evo Zap, obviously great option versus her as well as the arrows. But really, I mean, the Firecracker has just seen a use rate in a lot more Hog EQ. And since she's directly tied to Hog EQ, quite like the Tesla is to Expo, the stats are looking much better for her. And of course, she is one of the most popular, if not the most popular. I don't remember which one it is. She's one of the most popular evos, if not the most popular evo in the game, for a reason. Super easy to play. Goblin Barrel is really powerful in bait, and bait has gotten a lot better. Bait was one of the most popular win conditions in the top 200 last end season, and the bait has just been a viable option for a long time. Barrel takes bait to a new level, and a lot of bait success wouldn't be there without the new Evo Barrel. So, or not new, but just, you know what I'm saying. The Evo Barrel leads to a lot of bait success. It allows it to do much more on offense, and therefore is one of the strongest Evos in the game. P.E.K.K.A. is number 11. Don't freak out. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. You just said the P.E.K.K.A. is not worth up. P.E.K.K.A. is being entirely carried by P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant. And I know that this is like an Evo ranking for the next season and like with the new Inferno Dragon, but the deck didn't get nerfed. So this deck is beyond broken and stupidly easy to play. Outside of that deck, P.E.K.K.A. is dead, and it will remain one of the bottom 10 useless evos you shouldn't get. But right now, if you do have it, use it in P.E.K.K.A. Gob Giant. I just wouldn't tell you to go upgrade it for the future, because this deck is about to die again as soon as, you know, the balance changers put their little brain cells together. Because I know they can. They come up with some of the most genius balances ever, and then give Boss Bandit 3% health nerf. I wonder why. But right now, it's really good in this one deck. Same with Goblin Giant, which we'll see very shortly. Reaching the top 10, we have the Royal Giant, which is dominating right now, one of the most popular win conditions in the top 200 alongside bait. It is really, really good, and especially good with Monk and the Evo Witch. And the Evo Witch, really popular right now. Hint, hint. I wonder where that's ranked at. But yeah, the Royal Giant, just insane. And the Evo itself, although it's not that great, it's not that crazy, it's going to do a good job at dealing with swarms and allowing things to get knocked back by the Royal Giant. Gets it extra hits. On top ladder specifically, one Royal Giant hit that you get extra for free is going to win you the game. So that's why the Evo is so important, because getting just one or two extra Royal Giant hits changes the whole matchup. This is another one of them cards that people were asking me about. How are wall breakers or how did you say wall breakers is one of the top 10 useless? I don't think that the normal Clash Royale player can use wall breakers correctly. Top ladder players can use wall breakers properly, and they will see success with it, and therefore it's one of the best evos in the game, as the stats show. However, I don't think that your average everyday Joe can use them properly, and I've seen firsthand what happens when mid ladder players try to use the wall breakers. So I just don't recommend you upgrade them. If you have a one-trick deck that has them in it, sure. If you want to learn properly how to do it, yeah, I would. But there's not one of the most, they're one of the most skill-based evolutions, I'd say, to upgrade. So they are doing pretty good statistically right now. I stand by my point that I wouldn't recommend new players to upgrade them, though. And number 8 is the Goblin Giant Evo. This is literally the same thing as the P.E.K.K.A. Although Goblin Giant is still stronger than the P.E.K.K.A, which is why it's ranked higher. The Goblin Giant Evo is very popular right now because it's one of the most boosted decks of all time, if not the most boosted deck of all time. Arguably, the old version was better than this version, but still, Goblin Giant has a couple of other decks where it's decent too, with E-Barbs and Sparky, and ultimately, Goblin Giant's just really, really strong right now, but a lot of this is being carried by the P.E.K.K.A Goblin Giant deck, which I actually just made a video on. The Knight is extremely versatile, very strong in lots of decks. He's in lots of decks. He's really good at what he does. He's going to allow you to defend easier if he's moving. Although he's not going to provide you a direct melee advantage, being able to stall for time with the Knight to recover from an elixir deficit, or to tank something like an Expo, or to tank for something like an Evo Barrel. This is going to be something that's very, very good, and he's able to fit in a ton of decks, and he's going to consistently get you value, which makes him a really strong Evo. Number 6 is the Bats. This might be the highest they've ever been, but Bats are consistently slept on every single meta. They allow you to survive Zap, which is massive. They allow you to survive Rage, massive, both extremely popular spells, and by getting to arrows, they provide you an extra stage of spell bait, which opens up the entire rest of the deck to get more value, which is why Bats typically perform really well, is because they are used in these types of kind of bait decks, or decks where you're trying to force out an opponent's spell. You do because you have to in order to counter the Evo Bats, or as just a splash card, and that opens up your entire rest of the deck, allowed you to win positions you probably wouldn't have won if you didn't have the Evo Bats. Knocked down from its throne after 3 months or something like that, the Evo Cannon, believe it or not, I'm not a cannon glazer, but it has received its best nerf yet, which is reducing the radius of its little barrage bombs that come down, so it doesn't hit absolutely everything in the world now. And it's a little bit easier to tell when you can play something into it. I don't know if I've ever seen like my opponent have an Evo cannon and cycle and be like, okay, I'm gonna play this here so it doesn't get killed by it. But I imagine there is that outplay you could do now, because it doesn't kill literally everything in front of it anymore. There is easy room for it to miss. However, cannon is still really strong building and good against a lot of the meta. So and it's still a good ability. So although it's not number 1 anymore, it's still top 5. At number 4 is the Valkyrie evolution. Valkyrie is really strong and extremely versatile. You're gonna see that be a trend with the use rate, the win rate, and the versatility of the top 10 evos all being really good, with the exception of, I guess, the P.E.K.K.A. and Goblin giant, because they're win conditions basically. But yeah, the Valkyrie is used in a ton of decks. Its whirlwind is gonna open up opportunities on offense that you normally wouldn't be able to break through. On defense, maybe dragging support troops in. On defense, that swarm being able to, or swarm damage being able to kill things like Night Witch, bats, and an eagle and push. The Valkyrie just has so many options for you to get value out of. She consistently performs very well. She's in so many decks. The Valkyrie Evo, one of the best in the game. At number 3 is the Evo Zap. I think you could probably swap Evo Zap and Valk depending on what range of ladder you're in, but Zap does so many things. Zap opens up opportunities on offense to kill things like firecrackers, minion hordes, dark goblins, you name it, and you're going to be able to also get that 2 seconds of extra stun time, which could reset things like Inferno drags and stuff that allows you to actually break through for the first time ever. And you're going to see a lot of versatility, of course, again with this card, as it's one of the most popular in the game, and it's very easy to fit a Zap in your deck, ultimately making it a super duper strong Evo. And number 2, the Witch. Witch, ladies and gentlemen. The Witch is beyond strong. The balance changes don't really hurt it at all. It will probably see a little bit less use rate just over time, because people are going to develop ways to deal with it. However, Lightning also just got nerfed, which was the best counter to Witch, so that's indirectly buffing the Witch as well. And the Witch is just so easy to play. You keep it alive longer, and you get the right circumstance, and you literally can't kill the Witch. You've got to overcommit to the Witch. That allows you to go in with opposite lane or something like that, and then there you go, you lost the game because you have an unkillable Witch. Witch is so unbelievably boosted right now, and the stats just reflect that. However, the sheer pay-to-win creep of the Witch is not enough to beat our friend the Ice Spirit, who is the cycle deck a dream evolution even after the nerf. There is nothing better than having an Evo that is extremely versatile, gets you 2 stuns, which can open up so many things on defense. Like, you can literally bail yourself out on defense because you get 2 stuns, similar to how the Evo Knight stalls you out, similar to how the Evo Zap gets 2 stuns as well. But 2 freezes opens up so much more opportunity for mistakes in your game. And with the cycle decks having Evos, they get to Evos like 3 times faster than most players do. You're going to get more Ice Spirits, you're going to get more freezes, more chances to bail yourself out, and you get some offensive value sometimes as well if you're able to play your Ice Spirits well. It's just not worse than the Witch. The Witch is close, it's trying to knock on the door, but the Ice Spirit is just so good and so versatile. Let me know if you have any questions about the Evo ranking, and if you think anything in the video is wrong, you're wrong.